This video is going to show you how you can use percentage problems and proportions to help each other out and help you solve certain pieces. Even though we're going to spend a greater amount of time solving proportions in the later part of this chapter, it does need to show up now just because it ties the two together of percents and proportions. You've actually done this formula last year, so it's just a matter of bringing it back to your mind and making sure you remember what it was about. So the percent proportion formula, which is one you do have to memorize, it is not given to you on your formula sheet, is percent over 100 equals is over of. You may have seen it is over of equals percent over 100. That really doesn't matter. The is does represent the part from the problem, and the of represents the whole amount or the total from the problem, right? Because sometimes the words is and of aren't in your problems, and you have to think about whether you have a total amount or a part of a total amount. In this proportion, there are three things that can go missing. The 100 can never be missing. It's always there. So I'm going to show you three scenarios with an example problem for each one. So the first thing that I'm going to go missing is the percent. So to find the percent, okay, which would look like this: x over 100 equals your is number over your of number. Okay, that's the generic setup, right? But now that we have the generic, let's take a look at a problem that would involve numbers that you can actually put in place. What the question will ask you is something like this. It'll say, what percent of 16 is 12. Okay, so you'll notice when it says what percent, that's a big red flag that the percent is missing. Right? So our proportion is going to be x divided by 100, or x over 100, equals, and then find your is and of words. In this problem, here's the is word, here's the of word. Usually the numbers that are associated with them are behind those words. Every now and then for the is, it's usually in front. But just find the word and then find the number closest to it. Right? So in this case, the is 12, so 12 goes on top, and then the of is of 16, so 16 goes on the bottom. Right? And then to solve a proportion, you need to remember from the past that we have to cross multiply, which is multiplying diagonally. Then you will solve a one-step equation every time. So always grab your variable first. So x times 16 is 16x equals, go the other way, 12 times 100 is 1200. Now that you have this one-step equation, you have to get x by itself, so you always divide to get that answer. So divide by 16, and x comes out being 75. Now because the percent was missing, you have to put a percent sign in your answer. Right? Otherwise, there's no units necessary. All right, so that was to find the percentage, which was part one. The next thing that can go missing is to find the part, which is the is. Right, and the generic setup for that one would be the percent number over 100 equals, the is going to be where the x goes, and then the word of is going to turn into a number. So that's your generic setup for this one. Right? The example that goes along with it, we'll say, what is 24% of 160? Right? And notice it gives you a percent number, and then you see your word of, so you know that the is missing. Plus it says what is. Right? So when you go to fill in your proportion, 24 is going to go over 100. Okay? Equals, the is missing, so that's where our x goes, and of 160 would mean 160 goes on the bottom. Right? Do your cross multiplying. So always take the variable first. 100 times x is 100x. Go the other way. 24 times 160 is 3,840. And then the last thing you want to do is divide by the number in front of the x. So divide by 100 in this case. And this gives you x equals 38.4. There is no word or unit to put behind it because the problem just had numbers in it. Right? So that's when the is missing. And that's the second scenario. Right? For the third and final scenario, the only thing that can go missing other than the two I've already shown you is the whole part, the of. So this is to find the whole amount, which, like I said, is the of part of your formula. All right? So the generic for this would look like a percent number over 100 equals the is number over the x. So the x is now sitting in the bottom spot where the of would be. All right? So the example that goes along with this one would be 36 is 75% of what number? Okay, so when you set up your proportion, the 75 is the percent number. It goes over 100. The is the 36, and the of is we don't know, because that's what it says, of what number? We don't know. So now you're going to cross multiply, grab your 75 and your x. That makes 75x. Go the other way. 36 times 100 is 3,600. Then divide by the 75 to get rid of it. And after doing that, you should come up with x equals 48. And again, there's no units to put because it wasn't a word problem that required any. All right, so those are the three scenarios with the proportion that you would ever come into contact with. All right, so make sure you pay attention to what's missing and then how you want to fill it in. All right, for the final two examples, they are going to be given in word problem format, and you will have to, from those word problems, write a proportion using the percent proportion formula and come up with the answer. Right, so for the first one, you do need to write down everything that is up here. 22% of homes have a pet snake. Out of 4 million homes, how many have a pet snake? Okay, so you'll notice we're not looking for a percentage, we've got one, all right, but we're looking for a piece of the other side. So take your percentage, which is 22%, so we're going to take 22 and put it over 100, that part's filled in and done. Now you've got to decide this other number, the 4 million, is that your is or your of? And in this problem, it actually gives you the word of right here in front of it, so that's kind of a sneak peek as to where it goes. But if that's not there, always ask yourself, is that 4 million the total amount? And in this case, yes, it's the total amount of homes. That means it has to go on the bottom. We're looking for what part of those 4 million have a pet snake, and that's where your x is going to go. All right, so cross multiplying, yes, the numbers are going to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. 100 times x is 100x. Go the other way, 22 times 4 million is going to give you 88 million. Then you want to divide by that 100. And this is going to give you x equals 880,000. Okay, now because this is a word problem with situations surrounding it, you cannot just leave me with a number, right? It's 880,000 what? And you can't just say homes either because the total amount was homes. These are 880,000 homes with a pet snake. Okay, so make sure that your words behind your number definitely clarify what the answer is trying to ask, or what the problem is trying to ask even. All right, for the next word problem, the last one in this case, in a chess game, there are 16 pieces. If there is one king, what percent of the game pieces are kings? All right, so notice the question is asking what percent, which means you don't know the percent number. So that means over top of the 100 in your formula is going to go an x because you just don't know it. You will find it out in here in a minute. All right, then that means that the other two numbers in the problem, the 16 and the 1, are going to be on the other side where the is and of go. All right, now it does say if there is one, so that is a possible hint there. All right, but let's think about it from a different standpoint. Does it tell you the total number of pieces in the game? Yes, 16 is the total, which means 16 has to go in the of spot. And then what part of those 16 pieces are kings? That's where the 1 comes in. So that word is in front of it did help out a little bit, but if it's not there, you need to think about it differently. All right, and then we want to cross multiply. So this gives us 16x equals 100. We divide by 16. And we get x equals 6.25. Remember that it did ask what percent, so this is 6.25%. Right, so we'll continue to use this percent proportion with word problems and without, right, so that you get really good and comfortable with it. But this is something that you should already be familiar with and have some sort of idea about.